The mysterious Jack Rhysider, the latest from our daily newsletter at Podnews.net.
My name is Jack Rhysider, and I'm the host of the podcast Darknet Diaries.
Jack Rhysider has been interviewed by Apple Podcasts. He now has 2,200 paid subscribers, earning almost $11,000 a month. We link to his interview in our show notes and our newsletter at Podnews.net.
The Hamish and Andy podcast starts in 3, 2... Sorry, still buffering.
Hamish and Andy is still the number one show, according to Triton Digital's Australian podcast ranker for July. ARN's iHeart Podcast Network Australia remaining the number one publisher. The ranker measures participating publishers only. Podcasters hosting with Acast can now add another show for free to your account. Other updates include the ability to add a store link to your website and to track unique listeners per episode. Podcast content studio Q-Code has expanded its slate to include unscripted podcasts. Podbean is turning its focus onto sports podcasts with a free panel discussion on August the 30th featuring two creators of BBC sports podcasts. The Pitch is to return this November as an independent show. Host Josh Muccio has bought his show from Spotify's Gimlet. It last released shows in December 2020. Global's DAX has retained its exclusive ad sales contract with SoundCloud and is to add new opportunities for advertisers. Blanchard House has announced a podcast and documentary series based on the Wall Street millionaire John Bender. It'll be released later this year. Podcast hosting company Podtrix has partnered with Dorwood, a real estate technology company. Lemonada Media, Some Friends and Salt are to launch First, an unscripted comedy podcast from Kareem Rama. It'll launch on November the 1st. Podcast One has signed a multi-year agreement with Action Park Media, an LA-based media network founded by Kevin Connolly. And Manchester-based VoiceWorks Sport is to be the exclusive global audio partner for The Agency, a sports marketing agency. And in People News, Shana Naomi Krochmal has been appointed VP of LAist Studios, Southern California Public Radio's podcast studio. She was with Entertainment Weekly, and Sophie Chapp also joins SCPR as Director of Marketing and Communications. She was with the LA Times. And in podcast news, Kathy Heller Presents Don't Keep Your Day Job has signed with the Ad Large podcasting network. The show's had over 30 million downloads. Good Morning, Good Night is a brand new twice-daily podcast helping kids to move confidently through their big feelings while also feeling supported and loved. It's the 11th original show on the A Kids Podcast About network. What the Kids Are Watching was launched last week. It's a show for grown-ups about children's TV shows. The show is executive produced by Simsana for Cloud 10 Media. Corked is a new true crime comedy podcast, well, true in inverted commas, from comedy podcast network HeadGum. It features Miles Fletcher, an audio journalist for NPR-esque Public Radio America, who's contacted one day about a story featuring a famous brash winemaker who's living under a false identity. Missing Pages, Podglomerate's first original production, went live yesterday. It's a look behind the book publishing industry and its scams, fiascos, frauds and lies. And UK radio station Podcast Radio is now releasing interviews from the podcast show in London called The Interviews. Each day for 3 weeks, a new interview is made available on Podcast Radio's original content listen back RSS feed. And you can also hear that on Podcast Radio itself, alongside this podcast. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe, we're at podnews.net.